Joining us now from New York is Lincoln Mitchell. He's a research scholar at Columbia University School of International and Public Affairs. Lincoln, both candidates we saw are trying to get out the vote to get people to the polls on Tuesday. We've seen a record number of early voting. Is that because of COVID? Is that more of an anti-Trump sentiment, or is it something else?
Well, it's because of COVID to a great extent. It may be because of an anti-Trump sentiment. We know how many people are voting, and because we have party registration numbers and we can get some other demographic data, we have a sense of who those people, of what those people are demographically. What we don't know is whether those are people who would have voted anyway. I mean, I know many Americans who voted proudly by mail or early voting, but those are people who always vote. So I would be very careful about reading too much into these numbers, which are quite impressive, like 90-odd million people already voting. That doesn't tell us all that much yet, except that this will be a very high turnout election, probably the highest in American history.
Democrats appear worried about the crucial state of Pennsylvania. Trump is telling people there a vote for Biden is a vote to end fracking. What does he mean? Why is he saying that? And is that true?
Well, he's saying that because there are areas of Pennsylvania where fracking is a big engine of the economy, and that there are environmentalists in the Democratic Party who say we need to phase out fracking. Biden has not been as aggressive in saying that, and some of the other candidates and some of the other Democratic Party politicians, but he has been clear that we have to transition away from a fossil fuel-based energy regime. But that seems to me like that's a rational policy given what we know about climate change. We also don't know quite how many votes this will swing. You know, those voters who are willing to take a chance on Trump, they're already with Trump. It's a good argument for consolidating a base, but it's not an argument for winning over new voters in, let's just say, the suburban communities around Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, where he does need to pick up support. So it's a good soundbite. I don't know that it really persuades voters to come over to Trump's side.
What do you make of the amount of states now in play? Usually this close to Election Day, the number of battleground states shrinks.
Yes. The reason I see that is because there are so many different groups of Americans who are, because most of the states that are in play now that were not in play 4 years ago or 8 years ago are solidly Republican states. You mentioned that. You spoke about Iowa and Georgia, for example, earlier in this program. And those are states which should be in the bag. But what's happened is Trump has pushed so many different groups of voters away, right? So for example, two of the groups where we've seen the biggest change so far in the polls are seniors and suburban women who are not as supporting of Trump now as they were 4 years ago. But those are people that we see in every state. So a movement of, let's say African Americans doesn't have much of an impact in Iowa, for example, but there are a lot of seniors there. So because of the breadth of Trump's unpopularity, I'm not saying he doesn't have support, because he does have support, but lots of different groups are angry at Trump, and that's what's putting a lot of these states into play.
We, of course, have to remember that this essentially is thousands of small races at the county level, races at the state level, and so these changes are quite significant. You had mentioned women there. I saw a poll that Trump seems to be losing with women by some 25 points. Can he win those critical states without them? Well, look,
the majority of the electorate is female, so if you lose the women's vote badly, you're going to lose the election, full stop. The question here is specifically, a lot of the gender gap that we see is because the African American and Latino vote is more disproportionately female than you would expect from the overall population. And the reason for that, frankly, is mass incarceration. That so many African American men in some states have either been in jail, been in prison, lost their right to vote because of that. Florida, of course, there's a lot going on with regards to that the electorate is more female in those communities. With regards to white women, Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton with white women. If Joe Biden can break even with Donald Trump among white women, this election's over. A Republican candidate needs to hold the Democrat to below 40% with white voters overall in today's America. And Biden is polling well over 40% with white voters. Now, that includes white men, although he's considerably stronger with white women. If he keeps those numbers at 42, 43%, he's going to win. Biden is going to win this election if that happens.
Lincoln Mitchell from Columbia University, thank you so much for your insight.
My pleasure.